And one day we was all over there, and he had found 2 pregnancy tests in the bathroom. So he left her alone. So she, like 2 weeks later, she called me. I don't know if she texted me or whatever. I was outside in my yard, and she was like, "Hey, you want to come over?" I was like, "Yeah." And I'm gonna be honest with you. She said, "Well, we got a little weed." I said, "Look, I'm drinking a beer. I just finished cutting the grass. So I'm drinking some beer." And we went over there, and we was talking. One thing led to another about sex. And she had asked me, "What was the youngest girl I've been with?" And I said, "You're too young." And she told me, she said, "Well, I've been with older men than you." And I was like, "All right, well, the only way we're going to have sex if you don't tell my partner." And she was like, "Yeah, okay."
Well, we are about to watch a parole revocation hearing for a man who's on parole for taking 2 lives in a vehicular homicide. He's out on parole and now, as you can see, back in trouble again. I'll unpack it with the details at the end.
Your name and your DOC number.
My name is Jimmy Wayne Visinet, DOC number 626802.
Okay, Mr. Visinet, you're before this panel today for a revocation hearing. Do you have in front of you a signed document that's your signature showing that that you signed for your hearing? Do you have anything in front of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You indicated that you do not have mental illness treatment and you can read and write, so you are not eligible for appointed counsel at this time. Do you have retained counsel?
Well, I didn't have a lawyer, and he never asked me if I wanted a lawyer. He just asked me if I had a lawyer, and I told him no because I couldn't afford it. I've been locked up for a year.
Okay, you're not eligible for an appointed counsel.
Okay, okay.
So at this point, sir, I'm going to read some information, and I need you to enter a plea of guilty or not guilty or guilty with the statement. Okay. So currently you are being held for rule violation number 4, in that you failed to refrain from criminal activity. You were arrested by Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Office 7623 and charged with 2nd-degree rape, which is a felony. It has later been amended to sexual battery, which is a misdemeanor, and you pled guilty in court to that on 5/10 of 2024. How do you plead?
Okay, I can plead guilty to that, but I got a statement behind that.
Okay, guilty
we'll let
with
you
a
make it in a
statement.
minute.
Okay. All righty, and that's the only allegation we have against you. So at this time, we'll go ahead and allow you to make a statement.
Okay, did I send that? Did y'all get that letter that I sent to y'all?
Yeah, and we've all read it.
Okay, well, I mean, that's the statement because when I got locked up over here, Brandon Landry told me the only way that I would be able to get out of here was if it gets thrown out of court or I take a misdemeanor. Now, I took the misdemeanor. I would have never took the misdemeanor if I'd have known that that would have violated my parole. Because I was already in here 9 months going to trial, and they didn't set the trial back twice because there was no evidence on me that got on that charge. So they dropped it down to a misdemeanor because they didn't have nothing. And back in my mind, I was thinking that, well, he said to take a misdemeanor, I'd be all right. So I took the parole officer's advice and trusted that, he would. I mean, who am I to trust? If I can't trust a parole officer, I can't trust nobody.
Well, that's probably true. Nobody's a good choice in that case. Mr. Tillis is the person who has your case. So I'm going to ask Mr. Tillis if you have any questions.
So how long have you been in? You say about a year?
A year and 1 month.
And after your parole officer recommended that you do this, you took his advice, you didn't try to seek counseling later?
Well, that was right when I came in. 2 weeks after I came in, Mr. Brandon Landry came and talked to me and asked me if I wanted to violate myself. And I told him no, because I didn't do nothing wrong. It was a he say, she said. Because there was never no rape kit does nothing like that. It was bogus.
What happened between you and the young lady?
Well, it started out as I met her when I was working for my boss. He was a contractor, and we went. It was 2023. They had a cold freeze, and we went into the house and we fixed the pipes and all for her. My friend started dating her, and he left her because she wanted somebody to support her because she was losing her job. She didn't have a ride back and forth to work. Her boyfriend had just left her. And one day we was all over there, and he had found 2 pregnancy tests in the bathroom. So he left her alone. So she, like 2 weeks later, she called me. I don't know if she texted me or whatever. I was outside in my yard, and she was like, "Hey, you want to come over?" I was like, "Yeah." And I'm gonna be honest with you. She said, "Well, we got a little weed." I said, "Look, I'm drinking a beer. I just finished cutting the grass. I'm drinking some beer." And we went over there, and we was talking. One thing led to another about sex. And she had asked me, "What was the youngest girl I've been with?" And I said, "You're too young." And she told me, she said, "Well, I've been with older men than you." And I was like, "All right, well, the only way we're gonna have sex if you don't tell my partner." And she was like, "Yeah, okay." Well, we had sex. I went home. The next morning, the detective, by my ex-wife's house, the detective came and told me, he said, "Look, I need you to come to Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Office. I need to talk to you." And I was like, "Okay." So I went down there. I told them everything what happened. They let me go. I went back home. 2 weeks later, they picked me up on a warrant.
How old was she?
21,
And how old were you at the time?
46.
Okay. I have no more questions.
I have a few questions. Okay, were you drinking when y'all had sex?
After the fact, yeah. But
So you on for negligent homicide and you were drinking.
yes, I was.
I was trying to get your parole officer on the phone so we could hear what he had to say, but I wasn't able to. But the bottom line is, if you didn't do it, you shouldn't have pled to it. Any plea revokes your probation. It don't matter if it's misdemeanor or felony, it's the facts that we looked at. And you pled. I mean, so
Yeah.
you have offense.
I pled under his consent because if
You
he
gotta take that
I
up
would never
on
done it.
solid agreement. You do whatever you gotta do with him. Whatever you gotta do, but with us, we gotta do our job. So that's all I got.
Mr. Bithenot, the whole situation with the officer is something you have to do due diligence. You're on parole. You were smoking weed and drinking. Yes, that could have been a technical violation, but you pled guilty to this offense. So we're going to vote at this time. Mr. Tillis,
Revoke.
Mr. Freeman.
My vote is to revoke due to him pleading guilty to condition number 4, sexual battery misdemeanor.
Based on our interview today, our finding is that you are guilty, and my vote is also to revoke. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, what did we just watch? You know, he was initially sentenced to 18 years for the crash that killed 2 women, in which he was over the limit on alcohol. It was a DUI, his 3rd DUI in 10 years, as a matter of fact. So he takes 2 lives. They say what happened is that he was sentenced to 18 years in prison for killing 2 of his 5 passengers in a 2013 car crash that occurred along the Bourg-La-Rose Highway in Lafourche District Attorney's Office said. Okay. Jimmy pled guilty Monday to 2 counts of vehicular homicide, and the district judge, and look at here, his nose isn't broken yet, so I wonder when that happened. Homicide and district judge Hugh LaRosa courtroom, as vehicular homicide is considered a crime of violence under state law. Bisinot is required to serve at least 15 years or 85% of his sentence before he can apply for parole. Now, they didn't, he must have had his parole hearing before Louisiana was making it public, so we don't have it. Otherwise, we would play it for you, because what we like to do here is connect the dots. So if we have a parole hearing, we'll then show the revocation hearing. Didn't happen in that case. We don't have his parole hearing, but it says that the Yuma residents Patricia Vega, 42, and Carrie Scofield, 27, died the afternoon of September 28, 2013. Now, he was in a Grand Marquis. Remember those old Grand Marquis that it was a bench in the front seat? I drove one of those for some time, and it's a boat. And that's why, of course, the 2 women on the right side were killed. He, of course, wasn't, and there are 3 in the back that weren't. He was driving southbound when the car crossed the center lane and veered toward the right side of the road, eventually hitting a tree on its right side, state police said. State police later added that right front passenger Vega had jerked the wheel to the right to avoid a nearby 18-wheeler once the car crossed the center line. Vega and right rear passenger Scofield died upon impact, while 3 other passengers sustained minor injuries. So it was the person on the right and the back right, not the middle seat. So he's veering off, about to hit an 18-wheeler. They grab the wheel and turn it. It slams into the tree. Bisinot, who was not injured, of course he wasn't, had displayed slurred speech, and they never are, and performed poorly on a sobriety test after the crash. Police said that his subsequently breathalyzer test showed his blood alcohol content to be at 0.102, exceeding the legal limit of 0.8 for adults. They added, "This is a tragic circumstance," said the ADA, who prosecuted the case. "Hopefully, when Mr. Bisinot eventually gets out, he will think twice about ever driving and drinking while impaired." I guess he forgot to mention, think twice about maybe driving and having intercourse with a woman and then claiming, I told her not to tell anyone. What was that story? Bisinot had already pled guilty to charges last July, but ended up withdrawing his plea when he learned that vehicular homicide was to be classified as a crime of violence. According to the statute, vehicular homicide committed between March 19, 2013 and May 27, 2014 are considered crimes of violence. The law was later modified to specify that those occurring on or after May 28, 2014 can be considered as such if the driver's blood alcohol content is above 0.20. And this is like laws, legislation. These are where it's people come up, all the PhDs, right? Now, the legislators make these laws that then make us wonder, like, what? Oh, so if it's 0.19 now, it's not a crime of violence? How does that even make sense? Under the original agreement, Bisinot would have only been required to serve a third of the maximum 20-year sentence, but the DA said that this equates to about 6 years. With the new sentence, we are satisfied the defendant will end up serving a much longer sentence than originally considered, the mandatory minimum term of incarceration of crime of violence, noting that the victims' families were in agreement. This was his 3rd DWI in the last 10 years. And I don't know when he got out. I do know, and thank you, Richard, for providing all this information, that he was revoked July 6th, 2023. And he waited basically a full year for this revocation hearing, which is quite interesting. And maybe he knew that he was screwed. Now, he said, well, my PO said just if I could plead to a misdemeanor, they wouldn't violate me. And that's not true. We hear it all the time. And not just, and I believe that people are getting wrong advice. We hear it so often that I do believe that they're getting the wrong advice. We've seen attorneys give wrong advice to their clients. You cannot be involved in criminal activity. That is part of the parole contract that is signed. Being involved in any criminal activity, whether it's a misdemeanor or a felony, it doesn't make a difference as far as the parole contract is considered. So pleading to a misdemeanor can get you revoked. And he was initially charged with with second degree, sexual assault, which is a very serious felony, and they dropped it to the misdemeanor. Now, there are a few reasons why they may have dropped it to a misdemeanor. It could be that they know the system. They know that, hey, look, we don't need to worry about going to court. We don't need to worry about going to trial or any of that. Let's just drop it to misdemeanor and he'll get revoked. He's backing all these years. That's fine. And that could be what the ADA did in that case. I don't believe his story about, oh, I told her not to say anything. She said, I've been with much older people. Oh, yeah. And then, all of a sudden, I just don't buy it. And he admitted to drinking, which he's not allowed to do for his parole contract. So an easy revoke. I don't know how much time he's backing or how much more time he'll have to serve. He will have another opportunity of going up for parole. And thank you, Richard, for sharing the information. Man. With that, I'll let you go.
So, Mr. Poole, would you please state, okay. Could you please state your name and your DOC number for the record?
My name is Randell P DOC number 444767.
Okay, Mr. Poole, you're before this panel for revocation consideration. Do you have some paperwork in front of you that you signed, making sure you're not eligible or are eligible for appointed counsel?
They didn't send me the paperwork this time through the email.
We'll put that up there. Do you see that? Is that your signature on
Yes, ma'am.
420?
Yes,
Okay. So in signing that, you are not eligible for appointed counsel. Do you have retained counsel?
That's like a lawyer, ma'am?
Yes.
No, I don't have one.
Okay. So now I'm going to read the allegations against you, and I need you to enter a plea of guilty, not guilty, or guilty with a statement. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So allegation number 4, or condition number 4, on 3/31/2024, you were arrested by the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office for domestic abuse, violence, and child endangerment. Those charges were refused on 5/28/2024. How do you plead?
Not guilty.
Also, condition number 10, you failed to make any payments since you started supervision, and you are currently $1,262 in arrear on your payments. How do you plead?
Not guilty. But since I plead not guilty, since I've been in here, I made a payment.
Okay, how about, I'm gonna put you not guilty with the statement.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and now let's go ahead and hear that statement. Now tell me what?
Yes, since I've been here, I had made a payment for my taxes. My state taxes, it took $786. A payment was made since I've been in custody.
So you're only in arrears 500 and something now.
Well, when my parole officer came to see me, ma'am, it was like 300 and something.
We won't. All right, so we have that. So would you like to tell me in brief terms what happened for you to be sitting before us today, or standing before us today?
What happened? That's what you're saying, man?
Yeah.
All right. On Easter Sunday, me and my wife was at church. I made a confession that I had stepped out. She just went berserk. They had to separate us. The pastor made me get in the car with my sister, and the pastor took her home. So on my way home, I made it to the house first. I went in there, I was getting my stuff. So she came in after. She like, oh, you leaving? So she called the police. It was like Randell P DOC, he's got drugs and stuff. She just went to saying all type of stuff. So I started getting my stuff, putting it in the car. So as I was getting my stuff put in the car, she tried to crawl under the car, stop me from leaving. And then when I like pulled her from under the car, because my sister was rolling, to stop my sister from rolling over, she put her leg in a passionate wheel, just try to roll a wheel in there. So I told my sister to stop. So my sister stopped the truck. Boom. I get her from under the truck. I told my sister pull off. I got in the car with my cousin and we left. And my sister gave me a call. Was like, the police is surrounding my house. Don't come here. I'm like, what? So I called the police and told them where I was at, and they came and got me.
So I understand that you have 4 children in the home with y'all.
Yes.
Do you have any children together?
Yes, we have one daughter together.
Okay. And y'all have been married how long?
Been married for like 6 months now.
Okay. At this time, we have 2 people who were, in support. We have one at the moment, Brittany Poole. Your wife would like to speak in support of you at this time. Ms. Poole, if you please make sure you're not on mute and you can address the board.
Good morning. How you doing? What he said was true. I did overact and he did not hit me. I did call the police and say those things, but it wasn't true. And then I had a fight with the girl, and that's where the bruises came from that he was cheating with, because she came to my house after he left. And me and the young lady ended up fighting with her sister. So what he said was true. I did overact because we were separated at church, and when I came home, he was moving his things out.
So what's the plan moving forward? Now he's been in jail a couple months now, huh?
Well, I've been going through counseling and on my mental health medicine and stuff, and we've been working forward with it. That's my brother that's on the screen too, because he was here. And we're just gonna do things differently this time. Hopefully Randell won't step out on his marriage again, but we're gonna do things way different this time. This situation would never happen again, because it's affecting the kids and me as well.
So you realize that it's a crime to falsify a police report.
Yes, ma'am. I was told that by the district attorney.
Okay, and so they did not give you a fine or anything for?
No, ma'am.
There's a question by Mr. Freeman.
Okay, how did you get the cuts on your right leg?
The girl stabbed me.
Come on now. She stabbed, but at first you're gonna say he stabbed you, and that happened after you had called to report that
Yeah,
y'all.
because that's when we hit the fight. She came to my house. The young lady, her and her sister.
Yes, ma'am, no further questions.
Okay.
Thank you for your comments. Brittany, now we're gonna go to Mr. Tony Wells' brother. Is that your brother, or is that Mr. Poole's brother?
Good morning, Your Honor.
I'm sorry, that's my brother.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Wells, you can address the panel.
Good morning, board. How are you guys doing this morning? I am the brother of Brittany Poole. I have been knowing Randell Poole for about 13 years now. My sister have a very strong mental like a mental disorder, where it's bipolar and schizophrenia. Randell never, and not one day have I lived it in that house, and I lived it with them for 3 years in the house. They've been together 3 years. They've been legally married about 6 or 7 months. They've been legally married. He never once put his hands on her. He goes to work, come home. Yes, he did step out the house, but that was about it. He commit no crime. He don't hit her. He's very loving to the kids. He take that good care of his kids. The one, he got one kid with her. It's 3 other siblings in there with them.
Right.
No problem. I work with him on a job. Me and him worked together before. No problem on a job. He comes to work on time. Like he deserve a second chance at home to be with his kids, man.
So, thank you for that. Thank you for those comments.
Yes,
Mr. Poole,
Yes, ma'am.
were you working when this happened?
Yes, ma'am.
Why were you not paying your, fees?
I had to see, I worked for a tip and like, I work on the boat. And we work like on the boat, when we don't have a boat, we don't work. So, you know, I was going on working, so I was paying all the bills in the house. So, you know, sometimes I work and sometimes I don't. You know, I've been fortunate to take care of my household and kids and pay. But they took my whole state taxes. My state taxes was $786. You know, they took all that.
Yes. Let me ask you, what is your plan moving forward with this, Brittany?
Yes, ma'am. I wanna go on with my wife and do better, you know, with my kids.
Does she have a mental concern to you?
Yes, but I like, you know, it's a two-way street. You know, I stepped out, I provoked her to do what she did. Stepped out on her and she lost it.
I'd like to make a motion to go into executive.
A second.
Steve Freeman,
Yes.
Jerry LaBelle? Yeah, Joe too.
Yes.
We need to go into executive council to discuss private information.
They go off to the side and talk amongst themselves.
So what do you think? I mean, we've seen these revocation hearings over and over and over again. And it was like,
All I gotta do is show you how to roll.
2 weeks straight. Anytime we don't have no sockets.
sometimes we catch a hot mic. Looks like they just muted them. You know, we see this over and over and over again. Even Mr. Pete Freeman said, "Oh, come on." I love that response from him. Oh, it was the girl that he was cheating on. That's the one. And, you know, I don't have information on this case.
Mr. Poole,
Let's see.
these are situations that I call he said, she said. And after the interview today, have a more clear picture. My vote today is to not revoke, but I'm also going to ask to put a stipulation that you and your wife do some marriage counseling, at least 3 sessions of marriage counseling. Y'all need to sit down with somebody together, okay, and make sure that that's going well. But that would be my vote today. Mr. Freeman?
Due to the fact that the victim recanted her story and her brother cooperated, that according to them, nothing happened. My vote today is to do not revoke.
And Mr. Tillis?
My votes do not revoke.
So, sir, you, your parole has not been revoked, but you do need to go and get some counseling and catch up on your fees, okay?
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate y'all.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank y'all.
Well, now we're gonna, it's 9:48. We're gonna leave the, where am I? Jefferson Parish Correctional. All right, thank you.
Okay, so I mean, we see a lot of these parole revocation hearings, and I like that Miss Ledoux said, "Do you know that what you to falsify a statement, that's a crime?" And we see this all the time, and this story was just as bizarre, where it's like, no, it wasn't him. So it was her. It was the girl that was, and I just called the cops and made it all up, and they're just saying they're buying into it. They're believing it. I mean, she had a knife wound. She was hurt. She calls the cops. I mean, think about it. If you're believing that story to be true, she gets in a fight with the woman he's cheating on her with. She stabs her. She bloodies her. She hurts her. And instead of calling the cops on her, she in the moment thinks, wait, I have a better idea. I'm going to call the cops on my man, not on her. But let her get away with it. It just doesn't make sense. And you know, Richard pointed out, this is now all on the record, that she's unstable, that she's mental issues, that she's, you know, if they're actually married, he can hold this over her for the rest of the relationship. If it's not true, he can just say, oh no, she's crazy. See, she sent me to prison once before. I've just seen too many of these hearings to buy into it. There have been some hearings where I've been on the fence, where I do believe it, but this one is way too far-fetched. This one, she has the physical injuries, and you're telling me that to get into a fight with someone else, and then when you call the cops, completely make up on the spot that it was someone else that did it to you. That just doesn't make any sense to me. But the board decided to go ahead with it, and I don't know. I don't have any other information what he's originally in for, how much time he was backing. He was arrested initially August 7, 2024. And, you know, lucky for him, they had this revocation hearing pretty much right away. Well, he's out. And if we see him again, we'll see him here. And please do subscribe. Help this channel get to 100,000 subscribers. I haven't been asking this since the beginning of the channel, but I should start. Really, let's reach 100,000 subs. That would mean the world to me, and it would help more of us see what's going on out in the court system. And I think that there's value to that. And with that, I'll let you go.
Okay, so you didn't hit her? You didn't do nothing to her?
I've been with her for a few years, and I never put my hands on her, not one time. I love the woman, I really did.
Okay, so why did she have a bloody nose, broken nasal, and lacerations to her face? I mean, how can you explain that?
I don't believe that happened the day that she left me. I don't really believe that happened that day. 3 weeks after we separated, we were back together, and I was with her all the way to the time I went to jail. I never even believed they even put a charge on me.
Well, what else is new? It's another parole revocation hearing where he says, I don't know how she got those marks on his face. Well, he's serving time, 15 years actually, for being convicted for having a meth lab. And he is back in quite a lot of time after getting paroled from that charge. So there's a lot for him riding on this. I'll unpack with the details at the
Good morning. This is the Louisiana Committee on Parole, and we are convening our hearing in Baton Rouge. On the panel today, to my left is Chuck Tillis, to my right, Pete Freeman. On staff, we have here Jen, forgot me, and who is in support there at Livingston Parish Jail.
I am Classification Sergeant Jennifer Gomez.
Thank you, Ms. Dimon. Sir, would you please state your name and your DOC number for the record?
Mitchell Broxson, 574064.
Okay. Mr. Broxson, Do you have in front of you a document showing your signature, that, you do not need appointed counsel? Can you take a look? Does he have his document in front of him?
No, ma'am, he does not.
Okay. Could y'all, document indicates that you are not eligible for, appointed counsel at this time. Do you have retained counsel?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. Sir, you're before this panel, for revocation consideration. You've been through preliminary hearing and found guilty, but, I need your plea on these charges. It says, rule number 4, on September 18th, 2023, you were arrested for domestic abuse battery, serious bodily injury. And on 5/20/2024, you pled to the amended charge of disturbing the peace. How do you plead?
Guilty of that, of the disturbing the peace.
Okay, and, you also, rule number 10, you have failed to make payments and you're currently $1,638 in arrears. How do you plead to that?
Guilty.
Would you like to make a statement before we start questioning you on why we should, not revoke your parole? You want to explain what happened?
Yes. I believe she was trying to get me in jail to steal my stuff. And I was promised that, if I took the disturbing of peace, I wouldn't violate my parole.
Okay. Who told you that?
The public defender I had.
The public defender told you that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you happen to know his name?
Mr. Justin Simon.
All right. So I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Freeman. Your case belongs to him today.
Okay, Mr. Brock. First off, tell me what happened between you and her. I mean, was there an argument, or what went on?
We've had arguments in the past, but on that day, I don't believe we had an argument. I think she was just trying to leave with another person, and they accumulated a charge on me to steal my stuff, I believe. And that's what I believe happened.
Okay, so you didn't hit her, you didn't do nothing to her?
I've been with her for a few years, and I've never put my hands on her, not one time. I love the woman, I really did.
Okay, so why did she have a bloody nose, broken nasal, and lacerations to her face? I mean, how can you explain that?
I don't believe that happened the day that she left me. I don't really believe that happened that day. 3 weeks after we separated, we were back together, and I was with her all the way to the time I went to jail. I never even believed they even put a charge on me. Other than what she was trying to steal my stuff, other than that, because her and some other guy run off or whatever.
That didn't make you mad that she was to leave with another guy?
No, because I said I was always taught that, hey, that's what she wants to do. Then she didn't care, so I left. She had been with him before. It was one of her ex-boyfriends.
So you don't have any idea, because they had witnesses, that how she got the lacerations or the broken nose?
No, sir.
And then she came running from the house and you were in the house. Why would you plead not guilty to disturbing the peace? And don't tell me about the lawyer stuff, because that kind of a point. But why would you plead guilty if you're not guilty?
Right, because I was just trying to get out and be done with the court.
Right.
He said it did not violate my parole.
Okay, I have no further questions.
Mr. Tillis, do you have anything to add?
I have no questions.
During this period of supervision, have you received any other technical violations?
No, ma'am, I don't believe so. I believe I was in compliance the whole time. Well, I went and seen my parole officer on March 8th, and she was with me then. we was back together. And I went to a meet and seen him, and there wasn't no charge on me then.
Okay, so what date did this happen?
It said in my paperwork that it happened December 16th.
December 16th.
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
And when did she file charges?
I think that day. I think that's the day the charge happened, or whatever that they, whenever they said it happened. I did see her a few days after that or whatever, and she's like, "They're looking for your Jeep." I'm like, "Why would they be looking for my Jeep?" I mean, I thought that's why she was trying to steal my stuff or something. I don't know. I don't have no idea, but she didn't have a mark on her the day I seen her.
All right, well, Mr. Broxton, if you've had your say, we're gonna go ahead and vote.
Okay, I'm gonna move. But I want to ask you one more question. You have any contact with her at all right now?
No, no, sir.
Planning on having any contact with her in the future?
No, no, sir. She went her way. I'm going my way.
Okay, I move for an executive session.
We've had a request for executive session, Mr. Tillins.
I agree.
Mr.
I make a move that we go into executive session.
I second.
Okay.
She's
we'll be
gonna call
back.
it roll.
Pete Freeman,
Yes,
Chuck Tillins,
Yes.
Joe Leno.
Yeah.
we'll be right back. We just need to discuss some things. Good night.
You see the CEO's face there in the background. And you saw how I'm gonna get a hot mic.
We don't vote on it. Well, last time I just said guilty.
Miss Ledoux right there.
I've done 13 years on this parole already. Hopefully they'll let me back out and finish it up.
What were you given originally?
Ah, they muted it. Gosh, that always. Well, they muted it, so we lost our hot mic stream there for a second. I do have information though on what he was given originally. Thank you, Sir Richard. He was busted up for in 2008 for a meth lab. But the funny part about this is that he was busted twice in the same month. So he's busted for a meth lab, and then he bonds out, and then they bust him again in the same house, and we'll go over that and his appeal. So he did, they didn't think that was cute. They gave him quite a long sentence. What was it? He ended up going to jury trial. He was charged. What did he get? I guess I'll have to look at. I'm looking at it now, but we'll go over the information. And oh man, those busted with the meth lab stuff. We've seen meth labs blow up. We've seen everything. It's kind of funny. None of them are as smart or as clever as Breaking Bad, but that's probably because they're using their product. You notice how Miss Ledoux there said, what was the name of the attorney? Because she just, I guess, just didn't want to believe it that attorneys give this type of advice. But like I said before, and like we'll say over and over again, we see it already just for years where for whatever reason, attorneys don't seem to understand the law. You cannot plead guilty to anything when you're on parole because your parole contract says you cannot have any criminal activity. It is grounds to have your parole revoked. And yet there are attorneys that are giving blatantly wrong advice. And it's wrong. I don't know. It's a violation of their what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. but they do it all. It's just basically and you know, as an attorney, wouldn't you just say we could just Google it? It's like a Louisiana parole contract, and it pulls up. It takes a minute, and yet they just give the wrong advice over and over and over again. And people are getting revoked left and right. Pretty crazy. Wow, I wonder what they're thinking about here. Like, do they actually believe him? Normally I'll just fast forward, but I'm a little curious as to why it's taken so long. Maybe I'll fast forward for you guys in the editing. Oh, here we go.
Okay, we're returning to the hearing for Mr. Mitchell Broxton. It's time for us to vote. Mr. Freeman has your case. He'll vote first.
Okay, Mr. Broxton, pled guilty to disturbing the peace, and these are some very serious violations with very seriously bodily injury. And with a guilty plea, it means something went down. So my vote today is to revoke.
Mr. Tillis.
I concur.
Based on our findings today, you pled guilty with the statement and guilty, and we find you guilty. Today, Mr. Broxton, your parole has been revoked. Thank you. Now we're going to sign out. It's 9:26, and we're signing out from Livingston. Thank you.
Okay, so he's revoked. And what did he say? He said that he had served 7 years or 9 years on the sentence. He was convicted by the jury and sentenced to 15 years. So either he's got 8 more years left or he's got 6 more years left, depending on what it is that he said that he served. He will have another chance of applying for parole, maybe after 2 years or so. But that face that he made was like, oh, crap. I mean, imagine it's like all over again. But I don't know how they, in some cases, they pick, well, this time I'll believe you, or this time I won't. But here it is. This is how second meth lab found at the same home in 2 months. This is 2008. So yeah, that's not a scary face, man. I just don't understand the whole meth thing. I mean, look at what it does to you. It makes you look like it's just so crazy. These guys get any scarier looking. The parish says that 2 meth labs have been found at the same residence in 2 months. They say while searching a home in Weiss Road in Walker around 10 p.m. Tuesday night, June 10th, they found various supplies and chemicals commonly used to manufacture meth. Remember, this happened. This is what his initial offense was for. Agents say they also found 10 marijuana plants. Ooh, 10 marijuana plants. But this is back in the day. That would have been just as serious as the meth as far as they're concerned. Growing on the property in a small amount of processed Mary J. Deputies say they found another meth lab at the same house in April. They say at that time no one was home, so no arrests were made. However, 4 people were arrested in various charges on this one. That's so interesting. How did the cops find it, not arrest anyone, and then they kept it there? I really want to know how that happened. Those charges included outstanding warrants for other meth lab traffic violations, which they talk about. Wow, they gave him big bonds, $1,525,000, right? So then he decided to go and have a jury trial. What's interesting about this is that it was not a unanimous jury, but in Louisiana, it does not need to be. I'm sure there are other states it does not need to be unanimous either. 11 out of 12 jurors found them guilty. And I really wonder what that 12th juror, imagine like, no, I don't think he's guilty. So the facts of the case. So he was sentenced 15 years of hard labor. He now appeals, contending his conviction by a non-unanimous verdict violated his rights under Louisiana and state constitution, and the sentence imposed was unconstitutionally excessive. So here are the facts. Deputy Ken McMorris testifies that on trial on September 29, 2009, he activated the emergency lights on his vehicle after observing a white truck cross the center lane of Louisiana Highway several times. The truck refused to stop and turned off onto Buck Road. The vehicle ultimately stopped in front of a barn, and the passenger, later identified as the defendant, jumped out and began running. As he ran, he threw a gallon of Coleman camp fuel into a garbage can and a bag into another garbage can. The defendant ran into a wooded area. The driver of the vehicle, later identified as Ronald David. Cauty also jumped out and began running, but Deputy McMorris quickly apprehended him, consented to search of his vehicle. In the vehicle, Deputy Morris found 3 containers of lye drain opener, a black bag containing plastic tubing, several empty 120 and whatever, and an empty pack of lithium batteries. The bag thrown into the garbage can contained 50 coffee filters, Ziploc bags, and octane booster. A hazardous material team had to be called to collect evidence. Thereafter, at the end of nearby trail, the police found an active meth lab. There it is. I was wondering if I had the wrong document. Oh my gosh, there's just something that meth does to people that makes it comical in some ways. It's just, I'm not, you know what I mean? I hope you're not taking that the wrong way. The defendant was apprehended with the assistance of a canine. According to Deputy McMorris, the defendant stated that he and Cauty had just left Watson Auto Parts, where they had purchased the camp fuel and lye and were going to manufacture that narcotic. Deputy McMorris messed them up and caught them before they could get started. The trial court accepted Tri-Parish narcotic agent Hal Martin as an expert in the field of creation operation of labs. Agent Martin indicated that the quarter-inch plastic tubing recovered at the scene was commonly used to create various components of meth lab, including a blubber hose. He noted that coffee filters were widely used to filter out methamphetamine after it is salted using the hydrogen chloride generator. He stated that lithium is used in the ephedrine extraction of ephedrine reduction process. He testified that Coleman camping fuel is commonly used in either store lithium. Okay, so they bring up the expert that says, yes, this is how it's done. The defendant also testified in trial. So the defendant testified. He claimed that he visited Ronald Cauty on the day of the incident to help him mow grass. He claimed he and Cauty later purchased camp fuel to clean truck and lawnmower parts. He claimed that he ran from Deputy McMorris because he thought Deputy McMorris was one of Cauty's enemies. He denied to confessing to Deputy McMorris and denied manufacturing or trying to manufacture. And one jury bought that. Can you imagine? Now the excessive sentence. Let's see. I am curious to know about the 11 constitutional non-unanimous verdict. Let's see this one, because this is interesting. In assignment of error, the defendant argues that his conviction by a non-unanimous verdict violated his state and federal constitutional rights. Initially, we note that the defendant failed to preserve this claim for review by special pleading and particularized argument. It is well settled that a constitutional challenge may not be considered by an appellate court unless it was properly pleaded and raised in trial court below. While there is no single procedure for attacking the constitutionality of a statute, it has long been held that unconstitutionality of a statute must be specially pleaded and the grounds for claim particularized. I don't understand that, by the way. Moreover, Code Crime Part A 782A is constitutional and does not violate the 5th and 6th 14th Amendment. I mean, that to me makes sense. So basically saying no. In Louisiana, you don't need a unanimous verdict. And by the way, we have covered many cases in Louisiana where death penalties were given when 2 of the 12 jurors did not find him guilty or did not want the death penalty at least. And those were reversed because of that. Now, there is no authority in the country. Accordingly, we are not at liberty to ignore controlling jurisprudence of superior courts in this issue. So basically, they said you can't appeal. And then he also appealed the excessive sentence, saying 15 years is too much. It's excessive. Now, the record indicates that the defendant failed to make a file or motion to reconsider a sentence in this manner, according to review the assignment of error procedural bar. So it seems that he just didn't do that in time. Conclusion, the defendant's conviction and sentence are affirmed. Costs of this appeal are assessed to the defendant. And now he's revoked and he's going to have to serve a bunch more time. It is interesting, though, how the parole board says, yeah, well, this person will agree with you. You won't revoke you. And this one, no, I don't believe you at all. I don't know how they make those decisions, but they certainly did. And please do subscribe to the channel. Help us get to 100,000. That's the goal. So please do subscribe. And thank you, Richard, for the info. With that, I'll let you go.